Hey guys, it is 2025 and I have decided to finally get on YouTube and try to put myself out there to share my information. I want to be able to share with others the expertise that I've developed over the years, or whether that's through real estate, whether that's through business, etc. I'm a licensed mortgage broker in the Houston, Texas area. I'm also a real estate investor and developer, building my own private portfolio through multi unit residential properties. And I believe ownership over time is how you build wealth. So I'm coming to you guys to share various information, various tips and tricks around lending products, around how you can invest in real estate with low down payment mortgages and loans, and how you can potentially force appreciation through renovations and new construction. So I'm here, guys, really just to help you out. So I'm so glad to be here. I'm going to be showing up more often on YouTube here on my new channel, and I just want to, answer the questions. If you guys have questions, you have potential things that you'd like me to cover, definitely leave something in the comments and let me know what it is that you'd like for me to touch on this channel. I'm just excited to be here. So I also have a podcast I'm getting ready to launch called the Access to Capital Show that I'm going to be launching on another channel as well, where I also have guests on that as well. And we'll be talking about everything having to do with capital, raising capital. Where does private money come from? How to tap into lending products that are out there for you to do, various things that you may need to do in terms of buying a home, whether it's starting a business, etc. More on that to come. Okay, I recently wrote a book called House Hacking the American Dream: Maximizing Cash Flow in an Unaffordable America. This is the book right here. I'm really excited about this book. I wanted to lay down a blueprint for where I think we're headed in real estate. The home affordability problem is a big problem in America right now. And, the numbers and the math is pretty straightforward. In the history of America, we've never seen home prices go in reverse. Even though we've had dips over time, various crashes have happened over our history, home prices have always gone up. And one of the most critical things right now is that income is not keeping up with the price of goods, with the price of homes, etc. In a lot of situations, renting is cheaper than owning a property right now. So, honestly, what we have to do is we have to rethink how we're using residential real estate. That's my whole thesis. I believe that we need to look at residential real estate between 1 to 4 family differently. I think we need to look at it as income generating assets. We need to figure out a way in order to reconfigure how we're living and how we're utilizing our real estate assets and turning them into income generating properties. And this book really lays that out. It lays out various options that are available, different tips and tricks on how to get financing, low down payment financing to fund this type of stuff. And I've also layered into my framework and my kind of the recipe that I believe is needed for you to have success doing this. Layering in forced appreciation, which is essentially getting something that is undervalued and adding value to it, forcing the value to increase. House hacking is a term that's used primarily. You may think of it like living in a property and renting out another unit, for example, in a duplex to a tenant. That is a strong part of house hacking, but I'm really talking about a mindset shift here. And you don't only have to live in a property and rent it out to tenants for you to house hack. I'm also speaking about just changing the way we use residential real estate. So I'm hacking housing and how it generates income by just changing, reconfiguring layouts, maybe accessing, making additional units accessible from different parts of the property. Maybe you add an ADU in the back. Maybe you're renting out multiple rooms to people. So there's various approaches that you can take to this whole problem, depending on your current living situation. If you don't want to live next to tenants, but maybe you have a property, you have a home, and you're looking to invest and continue to grow your wealth, well, House Hacking the American Dream, the information I have in this book is really going to help you to understand the steps that are involved for you to do that and for you to scale up responsibly and, have success. So It's definitely something I think you should check out. It's available on my website at househackingtheamericandream.com. It's also widely distributed at various online retailers like Amazon. It's on Audible as well. And what I want to talk about is really this home affordability problem that we have in America. So here's a quick exercise that you can do that will help you determine how much home you can afford. It's really just simple math, right? Let me put this book back. I cover this in my book as well. Essentially, what you want to do is you want to look at your income, your gross income, if you're a W-2 employee. It's a little bit different for those that are self-employed. Well, let's just take a W-2 employee, for example. Let's say you're making $5,000 a month gross. We're going to do, as a mortgage broker, I'm able to qualify you based on your gross income. And then we have to back out your liabilities from that to determine how much you can afford. So this is a DTI calculation that we're doing. But essentially the way it works is, let's say you're making $5,000 a month gross, right, on your job. If you just simply split that in half, for example, 50% of that, of your income, is $2,500 a month that you're bringing home. You have to be able to fit your entire mortgage payment within that 50% threshold. And I'm talking more so for a particular loan program, government-backed program called the FHA low down payment mortgage, for example, right? They allow you to leverage up to past 50% of your income, but let's just take 50%. So that $2,500 number is what you have to use to qualify for your mortgage. And within that mortgage payment, everything has to fit into that. A mortgage payment is consisting of various factors, right? There's a couple components involved. You have your actual mortgage payment, which is calculated based on the loan amount and the interest rate that you qualify for. Then you have the other pieces. That's the P&I portion. Then you have the T&I, the taxes and insurance. So whatever the property tax rate in your area is, and whatever the insurance quote you can get for that particular property in your particular area. And everyone's insurance quote is going to be different based on their personal profile and the zip code that they're in. And historically there's been various, things that insurance companies do to increase costs in certain areas and reduce costs in other areas based on crime and what have you. They even do things like checking your credit. So it's not the fairest system, but this is how it works. So that PI, principal and interest, TI, taxes and insurance, is what makes up your mortgage payment. Now, if you have an HOA in that area, you have to add that as well to your mortgage payment. All of that has to fit within that $2,500. Now, we also have to take into account your liabilities. What debt do you have on your credit? So now if you're already down to $2,500 of what's available to spend on a mortgage, now you have to look at every credit item that is on your credit report. Credit cards, loan payments that you might have, student loans that you may have. Any payments that are on your credit report, you have to take those payments, add them up and total it up and subtract that from the $2,500, that 50% portion of your gross income. You got to back that out. Let's say that you have $500 worth of payments and from student loans or credit cards or what have you. Now you're down to only being able to use $2,000 out of your income to qualify for a mortgage. And that's how you determine how much you can afford. And that's what's causing home affordability to be a problem, is interest rates being increased cause the mortgage payments to go up. That's part of it. You got insurance companies that are raising rates. That's becoming a big issue now. And property taxes, especially in Texas, are extremely high. This is not such a problem for other areas in the country, but in Texas, it's a big problem. So this causes the available income that you have to qualify to be reduced, right? So that's one of the biggest contributing factors. It's not necessarily just supply and demand. It's more so your income, how much debts you have, that can harm your ability to afford a home. Now, what if I could tell you that I could give you a raise on paper, technically? What if I could add like $24,000 to your income in order to bump that number up, that qualifying number up, just on paper. That's possible when you're dealing with multi-unit properties. Whenever you're buying a property that has more than one unit and it has the potential to generate income from those other units, I'm able to take the projected income that comes from the appraisal report that we do. We take a portion of that, up to 75% of that, and we tack that onto your qualifying income. So now if we backed out all your debts and all the costs of the mortgage and your qualifying income dropped to $2,000 a month, but then we can add back in $25,000 a year or $24,000 a year, whatever it may be from a multi-unit property. Now that gets tacked on to your qualifying income. Now that raises your ability to afford more of a home. So that's why one of the key concepts I believe that is needed is increasing the amount of units that are on these residential properties to qualify for more home. The other flip side of this also is just going very tiny and building tiny homes. The challenge with that is cost of land. Because if you have a base kind of cost price of like $100,000 or $150,000 for a property, you don't want to just put a little tiny home on it if your land cost is extremely high. If your land is $150,000 and it costs you $150,000 to build a house, now you're at $300K and all you have is a little tiny home. That doesn't necessarily make sense, or it's not really the highest and best use for that property. So that's when we want to look into potentially dividing that lot up or increasing the amount of units that you're going to put on it to generate more cash flow. So that's really what I think is going to be a solution for the home affordability crisis that we have. There's a lot more to this, a lot more I could deep dive into this, but that's kind of gives you a little glimpse into what I also talk about in my new book, as well as a different approach. Now, I know adding multiple units to a property has to do with ground up renovation or potentially renovating an older property. Now, this may seem like a lot of work, but if you have somebody that has been through the process, understands the steps that are involved, you can lower your risk and really avoid any pitfalls that you may fall into if you understand the steps that are involved and you follow a framework and you go step by step and work within the parameters of what really works, instead of doing random things like maybe building out in very far rural locations where you have to put in huge infrastructure, or buying a piece of land that you haven't vetted properly yet, or potentially paying contractors before they've done the work. These are little mistakes that people will make getting into this space and getting into renovations and new construction, and it will cause them to fail and have a nightmare of a situation. And then they say, well, renovations or new construction is very tough, or it's impossible to do that. Too much risk. It's only risky because you don't necessarily know the next steps. So if you're interested in more on this topic and you'd like for me to share a little bit more on how this works, definitely check out my book and also book a call on my calendar. I'd love to share more information on this with you. And, we'll talk more and deep dive into this topic and the various aspects of this in the weeks to come as I release a little bit more videos on my channel. So be sure to like and subscribe. Finally here on YouTube, once again, Levon Woods, mortgage broker, multicultural mortgage in Houston, Texas. And I'm also a builder as well. So I'd love to tap in with you and answer any questions that you may have. Leave some comments below and show me some love on the subscribe button and let me get my subscriber count up like they say on YouTube. So, all right, have a good one, guys.